Okay, let's officially call this meeting to order. You got the roll call taken care of?
All done.
Yes, sir. Thanks. Public comment?
So, my name is Wes Wyatt. I'm a co-president of Salinas Monterey County Homeless Union, which is part of the Poor People's Campaign. It's a national call for moral revival. Kind of a church-based organization, but also part of Martin Luther King Jr.'s Living Legacy. And I'm also the NAACP Political Action Chair. You know, just start out there like I go to City Council, I go to the county, I go to Coalition of Homeless Service Providers, this Leadership Council is part of the Continuum of Care. There's a lot of issue right now with the Supreme Court decision, Johnson versus Grant's passed, and the governor's executive order forcing everyone out of state property and abdicating 100% responsibility for its own citizens. Thrusting it onto local jurisdictions, cities and counties. And, you know, I'm just coming here with my hat in my hand with asking for your support in asking the city to maybe coordinate and collaborate with the Coalition of Homeless Service Providers and allow fruition of service. There is a USICH, which is Interagency Council on Homelessness, that has a 19-point principle towards service-oriented, which kind of just says that people just need to be where they're at, and you know, service providers need to be able to find people, so they need an address, somewhere they can be 24/7, 365. Services provided, running water, electricity, just basic amenities, and then of course they have to have responsibility of stewardship over the land and what they're doing. You know, minimal health and safety standards, public, if health and safety is our primary concern, then we need to advocate that every single person needs a place to be. Especially if we already identify them, you know, they're in a continuum of care, we've promised them services, people are getting paid to make that happen. We know there's no housing available, we know this is the affordable housing they can afford. And we're not paying a penny, no, you know, it's just the housing they can provide for themselves. And we just need to support that and redirect law enforcement and public works to allow people to be somewhere, open up a spot, many spots, you know, these are neighborhood driven communities that people just, unless we're trying to kill them, we need to validate them as citizens, you know, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. We need basic essentials, food, clothing, and shelter. And, you know, we could really use some owned property, moneyed interest support in trying to advocate for, you know, yes, they're humans, they need somewhere to be. And they are residents, they're lifelong residents, they've been here their whole entire life. They just don't expect to die this early. And just asking for, you know, law enforcement more cooperation and less pushing people out of where they're at. Just because this theft is what's happening. You know, I mean, people get their cars towed, and it costs them so much more money, but it's so much more lucrative for those businesses to make money off of those properties, as opposed to just like, well, let me just pay your registration and just stay in your car. Because, you know, I mean, if it's a toy, you can have it, but if you need it to live, no, you can't. So let's change that attitude, please.
I want to say two things real quick. I was the redevelopment director for the city of Salinas before I retired. As the redevelopment director, I bought the Green Gold Inn for homeless services in that part of our community. I will tell you that at least 60% of the male population that are homeless wouldn't move into a free place to live if it was free. Because they can't do drugs, they can't take their pit bull, they can't drink, they can't have the prostitutes. So the problem is not just the absence of housing. The problem is addiction and mental illness. And until California wakes up to addiction and those problems, this problem will never be solved. Never.
Okay,
Okay.
very good.
I got one more question, Steve.
Sure.
Wes, you've been involved in this forever. I've seen you at these council meetings for many years now. And I've always advocated for finding a spot too for these people, because they're scattered all over the place. We see these homeless communities developing and then getting scattered out by the authorities, and then they go somewhere else. Are you advocating for any particular location where you would put these people if we were to say, get them off the streets and we want to put them right here, we're going to provide some services for them in the interim until such time as they maybe would get full-time housing? Any ideas?
Yeah, I mean, we have had, let me see if that went the right way. Yeah. So it has been, talked about before. Tony Barrera actually mentioned it about the Sun Street Park over there, where the carnival goes.
Yeah, I know.
And that's like 6 2/3 acres or whatever. It's got running water, it's got electricity to it. I mean, even during shelter in place, we had, we allowed people to just live right there, right? We didn't actually like drive them out, because oh my God, they might kill us instead. So we're scared to death of them, and that's why we allow them to be where they're at, and services to be provided, even just bottled water and food and whatnot. I mean, really, the overarching goal is housing, apartments would be great, but then market rate, per square foot, where's my cut? So, everything, nothing
We're
ever
talking
pans
short
out.
term.
Yes, short term. Well, that's what I'm talking about right there. Is that 6 2/3 acres? That did not pan out. Tony said something about it, and then 6 months later, he's like, "Oh yeah, no, they changed their mind." So it really wasn't. It was just a little quickie bob for a minute. But I mean, it's still neighborhood driven. You can't just drive and those people used to be your neighbors until they couldn't afford rent, and then it impacted housing, and you wonder why there's 3 or 5 families per house, because a 3 or 4 bedroom house is $5,200. So I mean, how is anybody supposed to keep up with that?
The only thing I'll add to that is, we've studied quite a few things around the shelter that's out there by the Nativity Hospital. That's something that we,
The brand new one.
that we believe that's a great model. They're pretty much full. They segregate the males from the females, and they keep the families together. But that really can only hold about 100 people.
Yeah, it's 100.
From it, from that standpoint. And actually, there are people in there that do find good jobs, and they're able to eventually leave there from that standpoint. So that's about as close to a model that we've seen. We've tried looking over the entire United States for somebody to say, show us something that really works in a big way.
Austin did it. Austin, Texas did a huge one.
State of Rhode Island, very successful program.
Yeah, so there are some good programs.
Yeah.
I mean, we're affected by it every day. They're on our streets, they're sitting on our benches, they're unfortunately urinating and defecating and vomiting and everything else.
Well, since it's got on the agenda somehow, I think that for me it's hard to believe people are serious about affordable housing unless they deal about land use policy, zoning ordinances, and approval process.
It comes from the top, right? So like, I mean, I work with the director of SHISPA, right? And his biggest thing is if we don't have market rate developers developing where they're gonna then donate the land at SHISPA, then we're not gonna have these additional housings that are available, because then they're not gonna build. And I mean, it's a total ripple effect and affects every single person. So ultimately, Wes, it comes from like your city council, your planning department, your, like, not that we're not on board with you by any means, but we don't have the we could support, right, if there was something, but maybe getting a model like, Texas or Rhode Island, and actually sitting down to present sort of like a business plan is what it would be, and making this go forward, right? I think you need to sit down with some people who are familiar with all of that to have something successful.
interesting, we have a reciprocal request, you know, that you support, you know, the incentivizing of development, because the demand for affordable housing is unlimited, literally unlimited.
Yeah.
Developers will build affordable housing.
But they have to have market rate that compensates for that, because it pays for it.
If they're
Right.
allowed to, yeah.
If they're allowed to, but with the restrictions that are coming, that are all happening, right, on the daily, we all know it, we all see it, we're not gonna have the affordable housing then.
That's right.
And so it affects every single one of our residents in our county or city.
Mhm.
Are you alluding to rent control, perhaps?
Well, oh yeah, that's a huge part of it, but yeah, that's the big part of it. So as a developer, right, would you come in here when you have a rent control of
No, no.
2.5%? Absolutely not.
No, that's a
When your
problem.
expenses are at 5% increase, so they're gonna cut a check every single year to pay for it, who's gonna come develop it so that our underprivileged
And
and Chisa can have housing?
This council doesn't care.
No, they don't. I
They
think
were
that-
going to, they're going to pass rent control, whether it makes any sense or not, without having any understanding of the impact that has on
Exactly.
this topic.
Absolutely, because in the long term, what this does is affect not the property owner, it affects the tenant. Like, and it like, or the resident who's looking for housing or the development. We had Chispa write a letter to the city attorney and expressed exactly this, saying, this is, he said, and I have the letter and I'm happy to provide it because he was sharing it publicly. And it said they don't pay property taxes, yet their expenses are on average up 5% a year, on average. Please do not pass this. If you do this, market rate developers are not gonna develop and we're not gonna have any more development.
And that's coming back
That's
next
coming
month.
from Chispa. They're bringing it on August 20th meeting, they're bringing this to, the council's gonna be voting on this. The TAC team, literally, we met, all of us met at the TAC team. They took everything that everybody said, but not one thing for the property owners, not one.
Mhm.
Everything went stronger, from the first original draft to the final draft that we received. Everything went harder. Well, all that's gonna do, it's making it harder for the tenants to rent now, because the people you used to be able to give a chance to, because you could get a double deposit, you're like, okay, we'll get a double deposit, but we're gonna give you an opportunity, right? And see if it works. I use that all the time, and I would give people a chance. And if you do great, I'm gonna advocate for you, and I'm gonna work hard for you. Well, guess what? We can't collect a double deposit anymore.
In the last 20 years, how many units have CISPA provided in Monterey County?
I don't have that number, so I don't know.
It's gotta be
It's quite a
close to
few.
2,000.
It's
A little
Probably.
under 2,000.
a
Huh?
little under,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but they want
No,
more,
Australia.
right? And so with these,
We manage a total of 2,546.
I was gonna say 2,500, so that's.
it's a lot of housing,
Right there.
right? I mean, it's just heartbreaking, right? Because you have families that are coming in here saying, please work with us, and I'm like, I can't. Our limitations now for people who are renting, I'm like, oh, now the owner's like, no problem. You want to go ahead and implement this? You have to have a 650 minimum credit score to rent.
So those 2,500, if the council does what they say they're gonna do, that has a huge effect on those 2,500.
Huge. It is, our waiting lists are longer than they've ever been, just to even get on the, you're not even applying for the housing yet, you're just on the waiting list, and
Waiting
you're a
list.
year wait.
Right.
But without that developer who's getting market rate, because I think that's what the council doesn't understand is the business model, right? To be honest, I'm so sorry, but none
They
of
don't
them
wanna
are in
understand.
business.
They don't wanna
They don't
understand
get
it.
it.
I think
They
it just
need it.
sounds good.
Okay.
It just
So
sounds
like
good.
it's gonna give you the vote.
Yes.
Like, oh, people
Okay.
room-
See the,
Okay.
Yeah.
see the Pandora's box?
We're trying to get to the consent agenda.
This could go a long time.
Otherwise, we don't have any
This is a
opinion.
subject for all of us, it's not
He was
just.
the only public guy,
Well,
okay?
yeah, sorry.
Well, I appreciate your
Thanks for
indulgence.
bringing it up, Wes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to put it on our agenda, just to discuss.
Wes, it is a topic that needs to be discussed, there's
Absolutely.
absolutely no question about it. Somehow this community is gonna have to.
There's a lot of heavy lifting that can be done and maybe even modeled, just like with the Leave Me Home plan a decade ago. That's actually what the coalition is trying to do, is collaborate with cities, jurisdictions to come up with working models that can be championed throughout the county and, San Benito and Monterey County both, all those jurisdictions to at least just keep your own residents. Don't push them all onto the county. That's basically the county's perspective. And of course, every jurisdiction is like, yeah, it's not that hard, And so that's the breakthrough of attitude we're trying to adjust. Just take care of your own residents. These are actually citizens that we should be affording much more than we do right now, especially if you don't spend the money helping them, but stop spending money hurting them.
All right, thank you. Consent agenda.
Just a note, sorry I did not include them with the packet earlier, but because we received some of the things later, I didn't have the 72 hours required where the public also gets to see them at the same time. So that's why they're being distributed today, in which case the public and the board gets to see them at the same time. So I'll work with our accountant to see if we can start getting these a little earlier so that I can include them with the packet.
Okay. Minutes of July 11th and the financial report, July. Maybe we can give a motion.
Have did we receive the rest of the tax?
We received the rest of the taxes, correct, yeah.
Okay.
I'll go over that in treasury comments.
Okay.
Okay.
I move to approve.
Got a motion
I amend it for one correction on the financials. On the grant funds, just there was a 10,000 expense for a mural that went out, that was put under SOBO, that needs to be reallocated under DISI.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Rick. Okay, it's a motion.
Second.
Second. Further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries. Well, we'll skip right down to, I guess, my report. I think I've already made a little comment about what happened with the city council when they convened that meeting over, what's that building?
Powell Building?
Powell Building.
Or the Armory?
Armory building, from that standpoint. I think you all are aware that we have a apartment complex that we're talking about building on lot 12. We're not so sure we're building that on lot 12.
What happened?
Well, 2.5% or 2% or whatever they're talking about, that doesn't really pencil. So we're not so sure about this. So being open and honest with everybody, so we're anxiously awaiting to see what.
Did that message get conveyed to the council at that meeting, sir?
That message has been conveyed, I'll say to the city manager, who's aware. So, I'll say that. And that's really about the only thing I've got outside of these. I'm going to compliment the murals that are going up. I actually was at a meeting with Greg yesterday, and I was like, okay, so for one, the next mural looks like it's going on the Travelers Hotel. And I'm just like, God, I'm not so sure it's right there in the alleyway. And
Yeah.
I'm immediately thinking of, here comes the tags. It would be one of the simplest ones to get tagged, and nobody know anything about it until you wake up the next morning. And it's also a building that is for sale. So yeah. I can either see the tag, then something goes over it that doesn't match the color that's on there, and okay, it doesn't add it up in my mind. But
The artist claims that good graffitiists will not target a.
That's largely true. That's my experience.
That's what I've been
largely
educated
true.
on.
Did you? I talked to him for a while about that. Yeah, he said, I grew up doing this. On walls. And he said, now I get to do it for money.
Now, has the mural on the side of the restaurant bar on 100 block, has that ever been graffiti? The one that you paid?
So far, so good.
Yeah.
Come on, Larry. now you jinxed it.
Sorry.
So that concludes the president's report. I will go to the treasurer's report.
Treasurer did receive the second installment finally. We are kind of surprisingly $33,000 short. So it's 6.9% of our budgeted, of our assessments. So it's just delinquencies, and so I asked Greg.
In progress.
Yeah, get a hold of the county and figure out a list of who hasn't paid and what's the accounting on that?
Oh, so it's short from, by people that haven't paid?
So, correct, yeah, so if we get shorted, it's from non-payment of property taxes.
And that, we gave up on the post office.
Correct,
So
so
that-
they'll
that
they'll
doesn't
be in
include
that
them.
number automatically.
We just,
Still-
we just excluded, right?
Well, they're still assessed in
No,
number,
no.
but that's part of the call it vacancy of the collection loss factor. So, but the 33 is higher than normal, so.
And you asked for the list?
Greg has
It's
asked.
in progress.
Yeah.
I've
So-
requested it, and we're waiting on
Get that
the
and drilling it as far as what
Interesting.
properties
Yeah.
are delinquent. Sometimes it's just oversight on a few of the owners.
Yeah.
But anyway, kind of curious to look at that list. We're also gonna close we have the CD, we put kind of some of the excess money we had into a CD at Mechanics. That expired or matured this week, we're gonna close it and move it back to our operating account, because we'll need the funds before the next December installment comes through. So, that's it for my report.
Okay. I compliment you, you do a great job.
We're still in the black.
That's good.
You do a fabulous job. Okay. Okay, district coordinator?
Nothing big on my end, other than I sent you guys the list of owners and businesses as requested during the last meeting. Most of the updates are going to be from the committee, the ad hoc committees. But status quo, we're interviewing or we're talking to the merchants about how all the events have been. We're trying to get a feel for that. We're setting up a meeting, trying to set up a meeting for all the retailers to see like what we can do to help them and assist them, or what they believe they need from the district. So lots of small cogs moving, but nothing substantial beyond that for the district coordinator position.
If I could add just one.
Yes, sir.
I went into Lee Jewelers the
Yeah.
other day to get a battery for my watch, and I've known Jaime forever. And I'm saying, how do guys like you view us? And he said, well, I've got one frustration. He said, when Nadaraga sold this building, he sold it to the outfit that has the laundromat,
Correct.
which is now chain linked off,
Yes.
because people were in stealing the mechanical mechanisms out of the washers and dryers. So and the company that owns the laundry business is now the owner. They bought it from Nadaraga.
Not anymore. So
that,
the owner and the laundry business, they were the same, but they've divested. So the laundry business and the owner are now separate entities,
okay.
to my knowledge.
And I told him, I said, I don't have any idea what we can do about any of that.
And part of that, they were like on the 18-month waiting list for PG&E to get their utilities upgraded, because the building wasn't juiced up enough.
So they bought the building in the absence of having enough electricity.
Or they bought it knowing that they had to put in electricity, but they're just on PG&E's waiting list. And a lot of that work has been done, but I don't know the actual status of.
There must be 50 washer and dryers in there.
Yeah, they got like $1 million with an inventory in there.
More.
It's man.
Yeah.
And who, well, anyway.
So, but I've actually stopped in and talked to Jaime before, and I haven't heard anything positive and or negative about our organization specifically.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. Yeah, I've got watch batteries myself there.
Okay.
Before you go, you want to mention what happened to the arch, the tag on the arch?
Oh yeah. So what is it, about 3 weeks ago now, give or take? The arch did get tagged. Very small. It was about this big, like 2 by 6 or something like that. Some person put their initials or something on it, and we saw it I saw it on a Friday late afternoon. We called the contractor on Monday. I think they came out on Tuesday, had it cleaned up, and on Wednesday they put their final coat or something back on again. So it was bing bang boom, taken care of, and looks like it never happened.
So it worked.
Yes.
You know, the protocol worked.
Yeah.
We don't have an official agreement yet. It's still it's in Ann Leach's hands now, from what Matt has told me.
but working process seems to, you know, the moment we spot it, we call them and we go for it.
What is Ian's role in this? Who is she lawyering for on this?
Well, Ann Leach is representing the Rotary.
Rotary Club.
And Manatoni is representing us,
Okay.
and they're in the same office. So I think that would make things easy, but
Do they have each other's phone numbers?
they're not charging us for it, so it's, you know,
The city's not involved in this whatsoever, right? I just mentioned that because that's good.
that's why it works.
Well, I mean, a city maintenance worker would not have walked by there and seen the tagging to identify it to remove it. That is literally our boots on the ground that are seeing that.
What's really important is you can damage the surface if you don't know how to remove it.
Right.
And then when you remove it, you also remove the water repellent,
We don't want
which
the-
makes it
we don't want the city-
subject to,
no,
you know,
looking.
worse tagging later. So you gotta retreat that.
Did you take a picture of it?
Yeah, I have it.
No, you sent it out.
Did I?
Yeah, I saw it.
Oh. Well, excellent then.
There's a couple of young kids that they've been tagging a lot of stuff, including inside my building. And
Yeah.
I've got them on camera
Yeah.
twice,
Oh, nice.
doing the job. I've seen him around, I haven't caught him yet, and I don't know what I would do if I did catch him.
This
He's-
happens a lot.
He's gonna be too fast for me, I'm
Our blue
sure.
tables get hit all the time.
Yeah, I recognize that.
So that's
That's,
no dough.
no, it's a gal, there's a gal that was doing it for a long time, I forget her name.
So there's a camera on a pole close to the arch. You know,
Yeah.
I spoke with the previous police chief about it, and he was interested in, you know, helping identify perpetrators. So we might want to.
It takes a while, somebody has to go through the film or the CD, whatever, to find out when it happened. You gotta go through a whole time sequence, because I do it on mine quite a bit if we have incidents.
Well, he expressed an interest in helping, you know, reduce that, and you might want to
Yeah.
open a conversation with the new chief, or was it an acting chief do we have?
He's
Yeah,
interim acting, yeah.
You know, see if that camera can be directed, or, you know, when we have an occurrence like that, we can announce it to them. And let them know. And did we notify Rotary of this last day?
I think I CC'd you guys? No, I think when I emailed it, I think you said you were gonna take care of it.
I don't remember that, but,
Nice try.
but did we get a bill from the contractor?
I did not.
So theoretically, that gets forwarded to Rotary.
But I can, if, I'll look into those emails again and I'll see if I dropped the ball, and in which case I'll notify Rotary.
Thanks.
A good question of the acting chief. If a person is identifiable from film, what will the city police do?
I have no idea.
I don't either.
Cite them. It's destruction of public property.
Well, they need to do something, but
Yeah.
I'm just curious if they, oh, that's nice to know, but we saw Charlie do this a couple of times.
If they have a video of them actually doing it, then they can actually prosecute them.
Right.
So years ago, we had someone who went through and etched a bunch of windows in Old Town. Caused like $30,000
Oh,
in
yeah, I
damage.
remember that.
And they just hit one to the next, the
Yeah,
next, the next. We
I
had
remember.
video footage of him actually doing it.
What did they do to the guy?
They actually, the parents had to pay up. It was
There you go.
it was a minor, so the parents had to pay up all the
Oh,
property
really?
owners to clear it.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, these are
so they
kids.
can do
Most
it
of
if
them.
they have a video of him actually doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Not just walking by and it happening on
Right.
the screen, so, yeah.
Our cameras are catching, actually doing it, aren't
We don't have any cameras out there that do anything like this. So the only cameras that are
they? On the
current,
arch?
we don't have cameras on it.
I didn't think we had a camera.
Well, just the PD ones up on those poles, but we don't have access to those. So
We don't have access to those.
well, I mean, I don't see the footage, the PD does.
Well, next time the PD calls us and wants our footage, tell them.
Look at your tapes.
But
Well, They do look at their tapes and then they don't have it. They
Yeah.
look at our tapes and, that's it, right
Yeah,
there.
and I mean, it just depends on whether you guys, whether this organization wants to put cameras on these things that we can control versus the PD controls.
What happened to the cameras that, the J DeSerpa program? I
They're
know
only,
that they didn't produce a whole lot, but.
there's only a few of those out there. You're talking about where they have the live security person?
Right.
I must have dreamt that we put security cameras on the arch.
You'd have to have somebody like Alvarez monitoring it if you were gonna actually really use this stuff. Somebody has to,
Yeah, if you want live notifications.
somebody has to
look at it.
physically be able to pull up that time sequence and
Yeah.
go through it
Yeah.
and watch before and then after, and then you catch the culprit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then you photograph it
literally
and you
need to
got
get
it.
through a day's like, oh, we
Yeah,
think it
it-
happened on the 5th. Okay, well, cool, that's 24 hours worth of
It takes time,
Yeah, it's time intensive.
I
yeah.
watch them at my apartment complexes, because I have some apartment
bet you-
complexes,
yeah.
oh, it's on my phone. So when I get phone calls, I'm like,
I
oh,
do too.
and then I download it, and then they're like, I wasn't doing fireworks. I'm like, well, this is you in the back of your car doing fireworks. And they're like, oh, don't turn me in.
Now, that demo camera that I installed in front of Bliss has the ability to do something like that. But it takes manpower to review after the
Right.
fact. So, and even the AI, like, like identifying events and things like that, when I did the demo, it was really good. And then we put it on our poll and it's not quite as good as it looked.
Yeah.
So it's always like that, right? But, so that wasn't necessarily a silver bullet for that particular brand of cameras. But it all depends on whether the organization wants to put their own eyes on, or we depend on the police department on their polls and hope the cameras are pointed the right way. Because they're PTZs, so point, tilt, zoom. So they move around.
If we're proactive on mitigating the graffiti, then they don't get the payoff,
Right.
of being seen.
That's true,
And a broken window theory. Yeah.
yeah.
By the way, the time lapse on the mural, very well done.
Yeah, we happen to
Very
have some of the
cool.
equipment, and I just hung it out there. And we were, Artist Inc. was nice enough to give us power. And then I just hung the camera there, and it takes snapshots, and I just glue all the snapshots together to make the video. Pretty easy.
I shared that with a number of folks, including John Cerny, the muralist, and he was just, whoa,
There you go.
very cool.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
So,
Even the one on the off Main area, there's only a couple of them, I guess, but they look good.
yeah.
So is this Jose Sortillini or who's doing that?
The mural at Midtown was done by Amy Berkman for Yosal, and then the one next to Patria in the alley, the big one with the whale, that one is being done by Hijos del Sol. Yeah. And then we have another mural that's gonna happen behind Fox here, and that one's done by Lisa Haas
On the Fox building?
on the back of the Fox.
Up high.
Uh-huh. So,
Is Lisa Haas with any particular organization?
no, she's herself, and but she's
And who's
done.
gonna do the one in the alley?
Which alley?
Off of.
Oh,
that one.
that one is by Travelers. That one is going to be La Neta, Neta, N-E-T-A, and they've done a few murals on the 101 underpasses here off of Alice Ave.
Oh, those are nice.
That's a good
Yeah,
one.
I like those.
So they've sent us a contract, but we have not executed on it. So they're tentatively doing it. So.
You want to comment on wine and food?
Yeah, sure. Do you remember Food and Wine?
I have a comment, and it was that I went and I had the pleasure of meeting a couple who was from Sacramento celebrating the 35th anniversary, and they asked us to take a picture of them behind the, sign that you guys had there. And they said that they were just down in Monterey, and they said, well, let's look at what you do. And they saw this, and they said, well, let's buy tickets and go. So they came, and now they told their kids they had a great time. So next year, they're coming with their kids.
Oh, cool.
So really good feedback. I was really glad to hear that, outcomers are just kind of coming out and experiencing it and have something nice to say about Salinas.
Cool.
I talked to a couple from Pacific Grove that came here specifically for this, and they said they had a great time. They enjoyed doing this. This is their second or third time coming, so they had a great time. I personally had a great time. The food selection was excellent. The wine selection was great. I've also talked to a handful of vendors, merchants along the 200 and 100 block, and they all said foot traffic was good. I got some, not corrective, I did receive one or two small input items or feedback items, but they were by no means negative. And I talked to Joel about some of the things, and he's like, oh yeah, we tried it different this year, so those comments kind of coincided. But overall, the general feeling is that they put on a great event, they had a good time. Joel told me that they were out till like 9 o'clock picking up trash, so the streets were absolutely clean. That's overall, I haven't not personally heard any complaints from vendors.
So I wonder if it'd be useful to keep a log of this kind of comments, dates and times and sources, because someday we might want to roll that out.
Why didn't you bring your wife?
I did.
Did you ride your bike home?
Well, we were gonna ride our bikes, but we ended up being late, so we ended up driving. She left early with our son, and I stayed for another hour or so, and I walked home.
So,
Not
so Greg,
staying.
is that feasible? Is it feasible to capture this kind of positive comments?
Yeah, and
and record any, negative feedback too, just.
And
so
I'm
we have
keeping
a-
track of all the conversations with all the merchants and people that I have
Dates
around.
and names and stuff
Great.
like that, that
Yeah,
you
I'm
I
can
can send
access.
you an email with my comment.
Perfect. So Food and Wine, by and large, seemed like it was a great event. Again, no negative feedback that I've heard so far.
Good.
We stayed a little after, and all of the restaurants downtown were pretty packed. Like people just hanging around. We ended up at one, we're like, oh my god, this is too packed. Let's go to the next one. So I was glad to see that people stayed afterwards to go and eat.
And Joel did mention that they want to have more involvement from the restaurants, or they're trying for more involvement with the restaurants and whatnot along Main Street for next year.
So I'm gonna put together a note and send out, basically saying everything was fantastic, keep up the good work. Yeah, look forward to next year's event.
Yeah. No, great.
Who provided the food?
Various.
There's several of the
Several.
downtown restaurants?
No, I think El Colibri had a tent out there.
There was over a dozen.
There was a lot of different tents, but the actual food restaurants and whatnot, there were not a lot of them in the event itself. The food vendors or the food exhibitions, they were from all over the place. We had some Kleinfelder barbecue. I think they're out in TNA, right? That's the Kleinfeld guys. There was a patisserie chef from like Scotts Valley. They were all over the place. And Joel did a really good job because 1 or 2 years ago, they ran out of food. And that was like a big negative thing. Like everybody's like, we paid all this money for a ticket, but there's no food. But this year, I didn't hear a single, like,
Joel's got his act together.
so
Yep.
he was doing a great job.
Good job.
So, I had my fill of all sorts of little snacks. And, Portobello's, I think, actually did stuffed portobellos.
They did a bang up job.
Yeah. So I love those little stuffed mushrooms.
Wes, you have any public comment?
No, thank you. Appreciate that. Not on this item.
Not on this side, all right. Let's go down to district identity.
Audrey's not in. She is vacationing. So as you just heard, we are in progress with the 2 murals. So that's going great. Checks have been sent. So I'm assuming EOS del Sol will be done probably this month on that mural by Patria. So Lisa Haas behind the fox here should start probably this month as well. It'll probably take her a week or 2 or 3 to complete it. Travelers is in progress. Let's see, lighting. For the lighting that we're doing, we are changing the arch colors to purple for Relay for Life that's happening, or the Paint Town Purple event is happening in August, and the actual event is happening in September. So that's in progress. We received the invoice from an electrician to, remember we talked about the trees last month where we changed the outlets to go higher. We received that invoice. I just got it yesterday. So that is cheaper than replacing all the boxes with all the stainless enclosures. So that will probably be something that we're going to do moving forward. We've also started planning for the holiday season, getting quotes for the tree decorations, the holiday tree of peace, the decorations.
Have we established a budget on that?
It's built into DISI's.
Yes.
It is built in.
Yeah. And it's about, we're looking at about the same dollar amount as last year. I don't think it's been major increases.
40.
Last year was just shy of 25, so we should stay below that again.
Below 25.
Yeah, yeah. But we'll do a reach out and see if there's any other vendors that are able to do these services, but there's not a lot of people that provide these services out there.
And we're not sure yet if we're going to run that through assessment dollars or grant funds yet. So we might push some of that off to grant funds.
That's kind of, oh, and the last thing is we're doing our PSA/advertising marketing update in the next few weeks, where we've reached out to several of our vendors and people interested in being in this PSA, that we can update our marketing materials, we'll run a marketing campaign, and that's being done with Mag1 Media. And
Do you
Jenna.
want to touch on what we're doing at Christmas tree and stuff like that? We're not having the lighting there.
Oh, right. So to go back to the holidays, last year we did the holiday tree lighting during the festival, the holiday parade of lights. And it just didn't work as smooth as we wanted it to. I wouldn't say it was anybody's fault or anything. It didn't quite have the same pizzazz as doing an individual tree lighting. So this year we are going to do it on Shop Small Saturday. In the past we've done it on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. I don't know why on Tuesdays, but that's where it was before. Now we're going to do it on Shop Small. So we are going to reach out to all the merchants and seeing if they have anything specials going on. We're hoping to involve some children activities before the actual tree lighting, like making your own decorations and whatnot. And then we're aiming between 5 and 6 o'clock time for the actual tree lighting ceremony. So that what we look for?
Yep.
Perfect. So I think that's DISI. I kind of bounce around a little bit, but that's what's going on there.
Okay. SOBO.
So we got to meet, so Greg, Joel and myself met, and which was great. Discussed about zones 1, zones 2, and getting block captains. So Greg is going to identify the certain blocks. So it's not every single block's going to have a block captain. We maybe want at 7, right? So then they'll take a couple blocks or whatever. We don't want 15 or more, but if we can get some block captains, maybe 6 or 7 people that will touch base with us on a monthly basis, just send us an email saying, hey, we noticed this, or hey, things look great, or this is what we got going on, but then they can sort of report to us, like, oh, we see this happening over here, or we need some more cleanup, so then we know to send Yesenia or Kevin over to clean those up, so maybe that'll help a little bit, instead of us just really being the only ones trying to do it. Just have a few people assign, report to Greg, and then we can come back and report. We also got an estimate to do a big cleanup, because they haven't been cleaning the sidewalks, so that hasn't happened in several months, and we're gonna not just do Main Street, actually, we're gonna go out a little bit and go from San Luis to Salinas Street, Monterey Street, and actually just sort of do a little wider since we haven't maintained and haven't been done, and then getting back on the normal maintenance, right? So that this is continuing to happen because you can see the sidewalks are just really needing some care and cleanup. They're just a little grubby. So the trash is being picked up great by Yesenia and the cleaning and Kevin. I mean, they're doing a great job, but we need to maintain that cleaning. So we've discussed that, talking about, they treated the aphids, they, just filling in, rocks and gravel where needed, so.
Do we have a date on the pressure washing yet, or?
I'm gonna execute that today,
Okay.
if that's okay. And then I think he can probably do it in the next week or two. I think we're gonna try and crank it out before the car show. I have to get the exact dates, but I think the majority can be done before the car show.
Who's gonna do it?
Capstone washing, pressure washing, Capstone.
Same guy.
Same guy who's been doing it.
All last year.
The area that really needs it are the pavers. The sidewalks look pretty good in general, but the paver areas,
There
they
are
seem
some
to
spills.
absorb stains. They get, a lot of stuff
Yeah.
shows up on them. I don't know what we can do about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It hasn't been maintained, so
Just an
typically we would
observation.
maintain and he would spot treat and do the things where he needs, but that hasn't been done in several months, what, 6?
6
And
months.
been a
so,
while, yeah.
it's 6
Yeah.
months, and so that'll
It
continue,
definitely needs
it
to
needs
catch
to
up.
go back,
Yeah.
yeah.
And he'll hit some of the spots along like heavy traffic areas, bars, restaurants, where you have grease coming in and out.
Al, yeah, that was another one.
The farmers market parts where
Mhm.
some of the vendors that are soiling the sidewalks. So he'll hit all those spots, and then,
And then there was gonna be some contribution from farmer's market, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
I believe.
yeah.
Mhm.
Uh,
And so we just need to make sure that we're touching base, and like I told Greg, if you can go ahead and identify, maybe by Monday, give me the blocks that you're gonna segregate,
Mhm.
and then give me your ideas on who you think will be the best, and then I'll take a look as well. If you could do that by Monday, that would be awesome. And then, because then what we're doing is, if we can spot treat and do certain things, and, it'll stay maintained, and we won't have those issues moving forward, and, because it was not dropped for 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Couple of years ago, we looked at buying some equipment. And the liability of getting through the front door into somebody's business or in the drains and all that, just said no.
It was easier just hiring it out to this guy.
Yeah.
We looked into it, kind
Yeah.
of explored numerous options.
Yeah.
Personnel to operate it
Yeah.
is an issue.
Liability.
Liability is an
Storage.
issue, storage is an issue, and just.
You have to do it like at 4 in the morning, and then you
Yeah.
have to suck up all the water and.
Oh, I know, the EPA regulation on it is just,
It took us a while to find a guy who can do it for a reasonable price.
Yeah.
So we got some quotes that were just astronomical. We
Yes,
had
I
to narrow
remember.
it down to something that's okay, we can afford this in our budget. So I think with Capstone last year, he did a great job. It was kind of an oversight that we let it lapse, 6 months ago. And so, I think it'd be good to get him back on it.
And I think if, once we start doing that, like, especially during the 300 block where they have the farmer's market, since we're gonna stay on top of it, we notice a lot is coming from the farmer's market that's not as general during this, like, the 200 and 100 block are much busier than the 300 block, right, except for farmer's market.
Right.
But if we're seeing a huge difference where the way it looks, then the farmer's market just needs to contribute a little bit more to pay for that.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
sounds like you're on top of it.
Very good. Anybody representing the land use committee?
I have a text
Yeah.
update from Jason.
Very good.
He had a client emergency, so he couldn't make the meeting. He
Okay.
wanted to try, but he couldn't. He doesn't really have a whole lot of land use updates, except there is a desire by some committee members to revisit and prioritize the all-way stop intersections. We might need to get some consensus on the board, whether we want to be more aggressive on this issue. Seems unlikely the city will act if they need to spend dollars to fix it. And this ties right into your ongoing concern, Larry, with the traffic and the sidewalks on the crossings on the 300 block. And whatever you guys want to do with that as a board versus the land use committee.
So I was at that meeting, there was nothing like a motion or direction or any majority,
It was just mainly putting up with listening to me.
We can survive.
Talking about Alice House Street.
Alice, and the crosswalk, yeah. Alice and the 300.
Well, at some point in time, we gotta address it, because the impact of traffic, as a result of those diagonal crosswalks doesn't work. And we all know that, and even the city traffic engineer who got run out of town, agreed it didn't work. The consultant he hired agreed it didn't work. So I said, sooner or later,
Well, what's the fix?
Diagonal crosswalk.
get rid of the diagonal crosswalks and re-time all of the signals.
Traffic is so backed up, it's backed up from Alice out all the way to West San Luis.
Yeah,
Every
no,
day.
believe me, I know.
I know
see
you-
it.
I know
see
you
it every
know.
day.
Yeah,
Well, I go around, but yeah.
Well, that's part of the problem. But so does a lot of other people.
Yeah.
I
They
go
don't come
around too.
downtown because of it. And he talked about this at our last meeting and agreed. Anyway,
Was there some kind of a state mandate for those diagonal crosswalks?
No, that was a staff
It was a good
suggestion
idea
that
that
they
they-
ran it-
Yeah.
they ran it- they
Well,
ran it right up the flagpole.
I think the thought was.
that was
to
Gary
make it more-
Peterson and Don Reynolds.
I think the overall thought was to make it
No,
a more
no, no,
pedestrian-friendly
that was the
street.
guy.
Well, yeah, we know what
Monterey.
yeah, we understand that part.
Who was a guy, a younger guy that left, city of Salinas and went to Monterey?
Andrew Easton.
Andrew,
It's
Andrew,
Andrew is about
yeah, I
it.
remember Andrew.
He's the one that carried that one through.
Well, it was in the vibrancy
I'm
plan.
just telling you, he carried it through.
I know. And he now knows it was wrong. He's told me so. I've talked to him in Monterey. Anyway,
There very well may be a fix coming.
Really?
I'm gonna say that right now.
Well, the only there's two diagonals, one at Main and Gabilan and one at LSL and Main.
And Salinas
There's
Street.
Salinas and
I
Main.
did, is Salinas Street is
Salinas and
a,
Alice out.
Salinas and
I didn't
Alice.
realize, okay.
that's diagonal too.
So Gabilan's fine, I don't see any problem on Gabilan and Main, do you? It's
the
primarily
Alice
LSL.
It's Alice.
The
Main
Alice
thoroughfare.
Main And the
Salinas Street, yeah.
Those get off kilter with the diagonal and it backs up so
Yeah.
far. Me leave my office on Lincoln, I can't
It's
go,
Lincoln.
I have to go north
Lincoln is
first.
If they eliminate those two,
Yes,
that would
you
pretty
can't even
much.
turn left off of Lincoln
Yeah.
by the post office, like, I will sit there the whole time, and then people just pull and stay right there, so that no one else can even cross, because they can't even get through. On Alisal, it's just it's horrible, it's just the one on Alisal needs to go.
Telling you guys, we need more bikes.
So what,
I don't live in the
how do we
city.
get, how do we get this done? Do we have to go to the council and make a presentation, or
I don't know.
what's the game plan?
Peter?
Game plan?
Yeah. How
I
do we
work,
get?
I work with somebody that just might write the check, because he's pretty pissed off.
Yeah, but who, so we hire an attorney, but we don't need to hire an attorney.
You hire him.
Just go to the city council and say, look, this is a problem, everybody in town
I don't
knows
think
about
we
it.
need to hire an attorney.
Yeah, I don't think so
Wait.
either.
Could hire Andrew,
Send a
come
letter.
back
Maybe
and
we
say
just
we
ask,
screwed up.
just ask them to change it or
Yeah.
something they could do, just.
Make a
it's not really
presentation
right
in
up
the next
the plan.
council
Yeah.
meeting,
It
whatever.
sounds like if there's
Wes?
funding for it,
Wes has got a motion.
Well, no, just a suggestion, because I would assume it'd have to go through a transportation committee or whatever, and so that may be a body to bring it to, but of course fruition of whatever, but
Yeah, well, that's a good place to start. Traffic,
Transportation.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna start. with the,
roads
city
and
manager.
City manager.
Marianne,
yeah.
if you
You're
could
gonna-
get, what's her name, Marianne Warden on your side.
Right.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, right. Where have we gotten?
is
have
she
you guys
still on
met?
the transportation commission?
No.
Where have we gotten with meeting with the city manager? Have you guys met with them?
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry, kind of
sorry, just to ask a little bit since you mentioned.
No, and as per our last meeting, we've also tried to, or we're working on scheduling the city manager, Lisa Brenton, and the our councilman as well. So we're trying to get them all in the rotation so we meet them
Yeah,
on a
that's-
regular basis.
Awesome,
That's mandatory. We
Yeah.
gotta do that.
for sure.
Okay,
Awesome.
adjourn.
any more public comment?
I had one, I just wanted to say that the newsletter that comes in online that we get an email, I really like it.
Okay, and I'm adding more bodies to that as
There
As
you
a
go.
matter of fact, I'm trying to figure out how we could do our T-Spin newsletter that way where it's like, you know, it has great graphics. I even took some snap pictures and I was like, this looks good.
Super.
Thank you.
Now you have to hire Greg.
As far as I'm concerned, we are now adjourned.
Thank you.
Solid.
Thank you all.